Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to the session. My name is Somajit Goswami and today we are doing this RC analysis for the Competition Crusade classes. And initial impressions about this RC passage was that this was fairly readable, not that difficult to read. The only thing that I thought was there a fair bit of, jargon sprinklage here and there, which makes it sort of, you can say a bit tiresome to read. Okay. But then it was readable, fairly readable. And initial impressions is that anybody who has not seen this passage, go to the Telegram community. There is a PDF given there, shared there. Take a look at the PDF, solve the PDF, take the questions, and then you can look at this analysis that will make things easier for you in terms of everything else. Okay, having said that, let's delve into this passage. You can also watch the video in 1.5x speed. That will make your life more enhanced. Okay, all right, so we're talking about, what are we looking at? There's a well-known contradiction in the way many of us behave online. Okay, so we're talking about starting with a contradiction, good one. We know we are being watched all the time and pay lip service to the evils of surveillance by Google and the government. Okay, but the bounds of what's considered too personal, revealing, or banal to be uploaded to an app or shared with a circle of social media followers seems to shrink by the day. Okay, so before jumping into the argument, the main idea and everything else, the first para tells me that we are talking something related to the online space in general. If you look into this first para itself, you'll see words like banal, surveillance, contradiction. Okay, surveillance, contradiction. These are the sort of words that, I don't know if you have seen them too often, but then normal janta will not see these things too often. So that, in that sense, the passage becomes a bit more esoteric. Okay, having said that, the argument is pretty much in your face. The argument says that there is a contradiction, that how we behave in the online space, which means logically we should be more constrained towards, showing a part of ourselves in the online space. But a diametrically opposite situation is happening in this case. Okay, let's read ahead. That's not to say that social media curbs our self-awareness or that our internet selves aren't highly artificial and curated. Okay, so this thing that, we are sharing everything with the concern knowledge that, the government agencies, Google and everything has a surveillance on us, does not mean that the social media curbs our self-awareness. So we are pretty much self-aware, or we are, in a way, the internet cells aren't highly artificial and curated. So the internet cells are not highly artificial or curated. So we are not being artificial and we're not being fake. We are sharing what needs to be shared with some sort of an idea that, okay, so there is a surveillance thing going on, maybe not giving too many F's over there. Okay, not that people living in oppressive regimes or as minorities in societies where they know they will be targeted aren't justifiably anxious about what they say online. Okay, so there is a sort of anxiousness also in the people who live in maybe minority societies or also in oppressive regimes. So there is some sort of a mental balance that I cannot say anything. So there is a bit of anxiousness over there. But digital media, I'm just trying to deconstruct the argument, but digital media have radically transformed our conceptions of intimacy and shame. Okay, interesting. I am no longer forced to take my chances on restaurant. Yelp will tell me I no longer run the risk of unforeseen delay on public transport. Google Map, blah blah blah. I no longer need to remember birthday, blah blah blah. Facebook nudge me to avail this application. All I have to do is make my location, habit and belief transparent to their parent company. So basically, there is a give and take of technology that is having over here, that, Facebook will tell me the birthday of my friend, Google Maps will tell me the traffic conditions, in return of which I need to give my, a bit of my privacy to their parent company. Okay, and what are these privacy traits? Obviously my location, my habits, my beliefs, and so on and so forth. Visibility is a trap. Okay, Visibility is a trap, wrote the French philosopher Michel Foucault in Discipline and Punish, the Birth of Prison in 75. What he meant was that allowing oneself to be watched and learning to watch others. Always remember, I keep on saying this thing, whenever there is a name mentioned, always try to understand what the argument of that name is, okay, because we're trying to construct the main idea. Whatever this Michel Foucault said basically meant that allowing oneself to be watched and learning to watch other is both seductive and dangerous. Can we quickly make a, this thing an analogous situation? Yes, Instagram is there. Instagram is one of those applications wherein we like to allow others to watch us, and we also enjoy watching others. Okay, what the argument, however, is that Michel Foucault is saying is that this trait is both seductive and dangerous. Why is it seductive? Why is it dangerous? Seductive maybe because we enjoy in that process. Dangerous maybe because the government agencies, the surveillance is in the picture, right? He drew upon Jeremy Bentham's 18th century plans for a panopticon. This is an important word. A prison in which inmates are observed from a central tower manned by a invisible occupant, his watchful eye seeing but unseen. The idea was that prisoners would internalize the presence of the spectral watchman and behave in their accord. Basically, what they're saying is that there is some sort of a panopticon ideology in which there is a, sort of a central tower, you can say, through which there is a invisible faculty who will have a watch on all the inmates. Inmates, basically the prisoners or the prison people. It's a atypical word that gets used especially in the context of the US. Okay, so that's why I say there are too many jargons thrown in to this. This was a good RC passage by the way. So the idea, I always keep on saying focus on the idea, and they're showing you the ideas on your face. The idea was that prisoners would internalize the presence of the spectral watchman and behave of their own. So basically they have some sort of an idea that somebody is watching us. We don't know who is watching, what is being watched at, but then somebody is watching and we should behave in our accord. According to Foucault, the dynamics of the panopticon bore many uncanny resemblance. Okay, uncanny is again a very interesting word. Resemblance to how people self-monitor in society at large. Okay. In the presence of ever watchful witness, he said, physical coercion is no longer necessary. So physical coercion is not needed. So the watchtower and the panopticon watchman does not necessarily need to go and individually check who is doing what and so on and so forth. They do not know they do not know what the observers are registering. Who are not knowing what the observers? Obviously the inmates. So they do not know what the observers are registering at any given moment, but the imagination keeps them pliant. Can you see that pliant is also an interesting word? Pliant is very much similar to compliant. Okay, you can say I agree to your terms. Individuals not only accept this form of discipline, but it soon become invisible to them and they willingly perpetuate it. So basically this panopticon thing in which that they know that somebody is watching us, make them accept some sort of a accept this as some sort of a discipline, and it sort of willingly they are perpetuating it also. Put people in a situation where they are the agents of their own censorship and they still fancy themselves to be free and self-determining. So this is a very interesting statement, which means that that there is some sort of a censorship going on, and yet you have the audacity to say that you are free and self-determining. Yeah, surveillance makes power multiple, automatic and anonymous. Foucault writes, less than the top-down threat of violence and more about a network of relation that reduces acquiescence. So maybe the last line can also tell me something about that panopticon situation, that this is less about the top-down threat of violence but more about a network of relation that induces acquiescence. Again a very interesting word. Can you see a lot of word? Acquiescence basically means samarthan in Hindi, or without any protest, just giving in. In many ways, the modern surveillance state, enabled and expanded thanks to new technologies, is a panopticon. The American theorist Bernard Harcourt points out in exposed desire and disobedience, digitalize this. The surveillance state hardly fits the bill anymore. The surveillance state hardly fits the bill anymore. Okay, so this is something that the theorist Bernard Harcourt is saying, that the surveillance state hardly fits the bill. He prefers to talk of a tentacular oligarchy. A tentacles are the, you can say, the extended limbs of an octopus or something of that sort. The tentacular oligarchy to include corporations now spying on us. Basically, obviously talking about the Facebook, Google, and so on and so forth. To this, we must add our audience, followers, from colleagues to the public at large. Okay, so this is an interesting statement which says that maybe government is not that much in the picture as of now. The tentacular oligarchy, including the corporations of the Facebook and all that, are maybe, taking this to the next stage. We seem to be surveilled from everywhere and nowhere, and yet the self-display continues. So this is a sort of a light statement to conclude the passage. This is the last one. Have we been so thoroughly disciplined? So this is a question that he asks. Have we been so thoroughly disciplined that the guards have taken away the watchtower, or is some other dynamic at work? So is it true that the guards have taken the watchtowers, and some other sort of a thing is at work? Okay, so fairly interesting passage, a lot of interesting ideas. Let's try to go to the questions and try and answer the questions now. Which one of the following, if true, would invalidate the author's argument about self-display online? First thing first, what do we know about the self-display? There's a constant surveillance that is going on. We are aware of it, yet we choose to not restrict ourselves, constantly post ourselves in the social network, social media, whatever you want to call it. Okay, the online internet world. Okay, what else do we know? So there is a sort of a threat also, but yet we are, not, and also we are not faking ourselves. Okay, this was also written somewhere over that our internet cells aren't highly artificial and curated. We know that there's a bit of a surveillance going on. That does not mean that now we started faking ourselves. No, there's a sense of reality also involved. Okay. Also, the fact that social media does not curb our self-awareness. So we are pretty much self-aware. It's just that some sort of a discipline is, in the picture. What is that discipline? That some, panopticon spectral watchman is there who is watching us. So we should behave. We should not, go too rash. Okay, so what are we supposed to find out? We are supposed to find out an argument that, if true, would invalidate the author's argument about the self-display online. Let's read. Social media have made us more self-aware than ever. It's true. And if it is true, is it invalidating the author's argument? I don't think so. Our internet selves are fake and curated. So I'll keep this, because a totally opposite thing is said, that we are not highly fake, highly artificial and accurate. We'll come to this one. Minorities in repressive regimes have become anxious about their online behavior. This is true, and this will not invalidate the author's argument. So goes out. Surveillance has helped us become thoroughly self-disciplined. Discipline as a entire concept is, talked about in the last paragraph. So last to last paragraph. So this is also true, and even if this is true, it does not really invalidate the argument. So the only thing that invalidates the author's argument, if it is true, is that our internet selves are fake and curated. It is, written, in plain bold English, that there is some sort of a, the bounds of what is considered personal revealing and everything follows. This thing is shrinking, which means that although we are aware of the surveillance, we are still, uploading content. We are doing everything that needs to be done without being highly artificial or curated. Our internet cells aren't highly artificial or curated, which means that we're not fake. But what happens if you become fake? If you become fake, then the entire thing becomes different. Then obviously the argument of the author can get invalidated, because the self-discipline thing will go out for a toss. who is there to, I mean, what sort of a discipline can you expect for somebody who is presenting a fake self? So let's not digress too much. The panopticon principle applies to all of the following, except, hopefully we don't have to go back to the passage. I am pretty much confident with this one now. Employers can get programs to track the keystrokes of staff working from home. I mean, this is a clear case of panopticon, okay, in which a central watchtower is watching the inmates. So definitely there, so goes out. Parents can get software to monitor their children's mobile phone uses. Definitely, you know, central watchtower watching the inmates, goes out. People can be kept under quarantine to contain the spread in the case of a pandemic. Although not really, you know, fitting into that watchtower and inmate philosophy, but in a way or the other it's doing the same thing, because they are containing people in a quarantine, and that basically contains, so basically you are observing them only, so observing is happening real time, so goes out. Offices can commission biometric verification to allow access to workspace. This basically, I don't think, I mean, this is the only option that make no sense. If offices commission biometric verification to allow access to work spaces, that has got nothing to do with surveillance as such. Okay, let's go ahead. Which of the following is not true about Michel Foucault's visibility trap? Interesting one. And do we know anything about the visibility trap? Let's go and read once. The visibility trap, what he meant was that allowing oneself to be watched and learning to watch other is both seductive and dangerous. The Instagram analogy, right? Let's read the options and try and see if that helps. And what are we finding? We are finding the following is not true according to Michel Foucault's visibility trap. The individual is kept under constant scrutiny. Scrutiny is a lot of, you can say, the Hindi word could be बहुत ज़्यादा परेशान करना या फिर अपने ideas बताना, ठीक है ना? Scrutiny is something like that, right? To basically disturb somebody. Scrutinize is like you are not doing this right, you are not doing this wrong, something of that sort. Okay, I hope you get the idea. I am not finding a you know, exact Hindi word for this, but scrutiny is like constantly, you know, poking your nose into somebody and saying you're not doing well, you're not doing this, and scrutinizing them. So this is actually not what Foucault's argument is. Foucault's argument has to do something that is related to the Instagram analogy. It's like, you know, seductive, at the same time it's dangerous. So I am allowing myself to be seen, I am seeing some other person. Individual become responsible for his own subjugation. Could be because it is dangerous. So is, you know, becomes responsible for his subjugation. So could be, so it goes out. The individual is kept in a field of constant visibility. The same thing we said, the, you know, visibility trap itself is this thing na, ki you are presenting yourself out there and you are also seeing somebody, so that ways. The fear of being observed prevent deviant behaviors. This is not, which of the following is not true? The fear of being observed prevent deviant behavior. This is actually not true, actually out of the scope for this question, but I would like to keep this also. I would perhaps come back at it at some other point. Okay, let me see this once. What he meant was that allowing oneself to be watched and learning to watch others is both seductive and dangerous. He drew upon this thing. The idea was that prisoners would internalize the presence of the spectral watchman and behave of their own accord. So yeah, so the fear of being observed prevent the deviant behavior, so they will behave accordingly. Yeah, so it goes out. Now the last question. This is the last question, which says, I hope you can see this. According to the author, a tentacular oligarchy is. A tentacular oligarchy, I just mentioned a tentacle is basically the, sorry, a tentacle is basically the expanding pseudo arms of some, you know, arthropod octopus or something of that sort. Okay, so the limbs of an octopus or something of that. So the tentacular oligarchy, I don't think this is going to be that difficult. Surveillance of our private space using digital technologies, no. So this is more towards tentacular, means, you know, the ever expanding arms. Okay, this is what I meant through the tentacular oligarchy. Pervasive surveillance by the state corporates, one's follower on social media and public at large. So this is, you know, this is not elimination, this is directly picking up the options. Surveillance or a private space using digital technology, no, this is not tentacular in any sense. New digital landscape that are designed to exploit our desire for access to everything. Like, this is out of the scope of the question. A society that knowingly surrender its privacy for consumer convenience and access to social network. No, tentacular oligarchy, something to do with the expanding, ever expanding this thing. So pervasive surveillance. The only word that helped me pick this was this one, pervasive. You can agree to disagree with me, but I mean, that's the way it is. Thank you.